Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories where I go over them, analyze them, and on occasion, make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled, I Bought a Police Radio Scanner and Found Out That My Wife Cheated with Her Police Patrol Partner. And guys, this story is definitely an entertaining one. This is all about a guy who married a police officer and a very deceitful cheating police officer, I might add. And it's about this whole saga he goes through with her on the job and his suspicions of her with her male partner. And ultimately, you're going to see, guys, that he knew something was up, but he couldn't quite prove it. But eventually, he finds proof. And it's this never-ending, crazy saga of drama with this woman here. And I'm doing this, guys, for many of you guys that are obviously in relationships or marriages. And those of you that ever, unfortunately, been in his shoes where you knew something was going on, but you couldn't quite prove it. And eventually you did. And just the whole aftermath, what you dealt with her, and then also with a potential, if you have children, all that. Definitely an interesting one. And also, guys, this is a long story. So this is going to be part one of a 3-part series. I know a lot of you guys like these multi-part series. And you're going to see here, guys, with this whole roller coaster here, this guy ultimately will come out on top. But let me tell you, it's quite a saga. So I'm going to waste no more time and I'm going to get right into it. It starts off, I have known my wife for 6 years, married for 5. I am 28 years old. She is 27. My wife is currently pregnant and she's taking a break from the police force to have a baby. So this whole drama all started when these police officers knocked on my door to threaten me because I and my wife had an argument. I threw her out of my house after she wanted to start fighting with me. We got into a physical altercation which she initiated and kicked her out of the house. Hey, she started it and she's getting physical with him. You're out, honey. He thought that because he has a badge, I'm supposed to be afraid of him. The police officer is my wife's patrol car partner back when she was on active duty. They've been partners for a little over a year now. My wife has been in the police force for about 4 years. Ever since she partnered with this guy about 1 year ago, she's been acting very strange, and our marriage has been deteriorating. Gee, I wonder what's going on. We got into an argument and it escalated to a big fight. She was the violent one. She slapped me first. I kicked her out of the house, and then she called him. He showed up at my door telling me that if I keep provoking my wife, he's going to throw me in jail. I've always suspected there was something going on between them. Now I'm sure of it. Let me give you guys the background that predicted this incident. Back then, when my wife started thinking about becoming a police officer, it was at a time that she graduated from a community college with a degree in criminal justice. I was in between jobs at the time, and we were struggling with money. The police department was paying well, so it was an easy decision for her to decide to join the force. She never thought about making it a career because of how dangerous being a police officer could be. I remember the time she responded to a domestic dispute issue and she was trying to arrest somebody, and she ended up getting physically attacked, which resulted in a serious injury. I had to come visit her in the hospital. What happened was she was responding to a domestic issue from a woman and her hied-up boyfriend. She showed up on the guy's door thinking that it would be a slap on the wrist kind of thing. She had no partner because her partner called in sick. She thought it was going to be a light kind of duty thing. She knocked and nobody answered. When she started hearing a woman screaming inside the house, she called for backup and then tried to break into the house. Well, it took her a few minutes, but she finally got in. When she got inside, this high-up guy was slapping his wife, so she pulled out her taser tool and tased him. But the taser just got him angrier, so he got on her before she could pull her tool. Tough situation. She knows something's going on, doesn't have a partner, can't wait for backup because somebody's screaming inside. And, it's a tough situation. A lot of people think it's so black and white with police officers. It's not. I don't know any police officers. I knew some when I was a kid, but it's a very tough job. Unfortunately, thanks to some bad apples and the media fueling the fire, it's a tough break on cops nowadays. So they got into a scuffle and she got the worst of it. She was tough enough to hold on to her weapon till backup showed and lit up the guy. It was a terrifying experience for both of us, just like any other near-death experience. She could have lost her life. When I went to the hospital to see her, she looked like she had been in a car accident. Seeing her in the hospital bed has to be one of the worst days of my life. She was all swollen up, and the doctor said that she was almost lost one eye. Oh my God, it's terrible. It was a wake-up call for us. I stayed bedside at the hospital for 2 days. I took her a while to recover, not only physically, but mentally as well. She was on paid leave for almost a month. During her recovery, we had a serious discussion about her transitioning from law enforcement to becoming a TSA. It wouldn't pay as much, but I would sleep at night knowing that she was safe because as a police officer, any day she walked outdoors could potentially be her last. By that time, I'd almost finished my mechanic training, and I was working on people's cars on the side, which was enough to pay the rent and utilities. A lot of people can't handle that. You know, the uncertainty of your loved one going off, and that could be the last. And by the way, notice how he's been at her side and all that stuff, doing these great things as a husband. Pay attention to that. See how that is thanked. After my wife recovered, she went back to work and was relegated to a desk job so she can regain her confidence before they were ready to put her back in the field. I remember the first week of her desk job, she came home complaining it was too slow, and she wanted some adventure and action. Oh, for goodness sake. After what she went through, she's already complaining because she's bored? No comment there. I reminded her about what happened when she was in a hurry for some action and didn't wait for backup, and I told her she would get used to it. Well, she's lucky he agreed to this. He could have said, no, you're done. Off to TSA you go. My wife is always the type that talks about her work when she comes home. She talks about everybody at work in detail. I just let her speak because she's the type that has to vent to somebody. Either she's talking to me or a therapist, so rather be me that we can't afford a therapist. Newsflash, dude, all women that you're in a relationship with want to come home at the end of the day and yammer on about their day, about everybody in their office or where they work, and every last detail. They're all like that. Obviously, this was the first woman he's lived with. And any of you guys out there that have been in serious relationships where you live with your girl or married, you know what I'm talking about. Guys come home, we generally just want to be quiet. And some peace and quiet. That's why a lot of guys end up going to a bar with their friends or their favorite watering hole for a drink before they go home. But the gals come home and about everything for 45 minutes. And you're just there like, getting ready for dinner. You're like, really? My wife is always the type, I read that part. About 6 months after her desk job, she started talking about this guy that just got out of the Marines and joined the police force, and how he's so cocky and thinks he's G.I. Joe. She spoke about him in spite. She kept complaining about his arrogance and how much she hates him, how he is so disrespectful, and how she hopes he gets in trouble. She says she's heard stories about how terrible he treats detainees, and she thinks he's abusing the law. My response always was that she could be a whistleblower, expose him, and she'd be protected against any retaliation. Or she could just look over it. In my opinion, I thought she was overreacting based on the things she was saying. I thought that maybe she was jealous of him. My wife has always been the type who hates overly arrogant people. I remember how much she hated Trump, and I couldn't get her to shut up about him. That's a common story. She traveled hundreds of miles to this ridiculous women's march against Trump, and she became a liberal because of him. Politics never interested me, so I thought she was overreacting. In any case, I thought this guy may have been sort of a mini Trump that just got into her head, and she's voicing her frustration. Well, it sounds to me she likes this dude, and you're going to see here who this guy eventually becomes. This went on for a month, and then suddenly it stopped. She stopped complaining about him. At first, I was relieved that she wasn't talking about him anymore, but then a few weeks later, she started talking about going back to the field. I voiced my opposition to it and told her that it wasn't a great idea, and she stopped talking about it for a little while. After that, she brought it up several times. She said that she'd be all for doing was light duty. I don't think there's any such thing as light duty unless it's being a meter maid, but I could be wrong. I reminded her that the light duty got her to the hospital the first time. I thought it was the end of the conversation. Later on, she started telling me that she is working an extra shift. While I like the fact that she was trying to contribute more, I find it strange because we didn't need the money that bad at the time. We were doing okay financially, plus it was just me and her. We didn't have kids because she doesn't want to have any kids. I want kids at some point, but I wasn't in a hurry. No rush, brother. Save your money. Pay attention to these little things, guys. She didn't want a kid. Remember that. Remember her bitching and complaining about this guy she worked with? Pay attention to that. I suspected that she was back on patrol and was doing it behind my back. So I tried to catch her in the act. When she told me that she was working overtime, I went to the police station where she was supposed to be, but I couldn't get in the office area without her knowing that I was there. So I waited for her, but she didn't come out for her lunchtime or when my shift was supposed to be over. Unfortunately, I ran out of patience and went home. When she came back from work, I confronted her about it, and she lied that she was in her office. She knows that they wouldn't let me go to her office area, so there was no way I could confirm if she was not on patrol, other than to wait and catch her red-handed. I went as far as buying a radio scanner. I've seen it in the movies many times, so I bought a police radio scanner. I listened to her for 2 days and recorded her on the scanner. But the most surprising part was that the guy she's been calling all kind of arrogant, and even comparing him to Trump, is now her new patrol car partner. Aha! The guy she claimed that she hated and was just, oh, he was so terrible and blah, blah, blah. This is her new patrol partner. How many times have you had situations where you've heard women complain about a guy and later on down the road they're hooking up? At this point, I didn't really suspect that there was anything going on between them. I was just concerned that she lied to me and she might end up getting in trouble and wind up in the hospital. Once trust is gone, guys, it's over. And so she's lying to him about this. It's like, well, what's next? Well, you're obviously going to say what's next. Now she was trying to be G.I. Jane and play the adventurer on her favorite cop sitcom. But to me, she's too fragile and too cute for the patrol job. It's not for everybody, and I don't know how they even allowed her to do it. Well, they probably allowed her to do it because they obviously want to be diverse with the police force and things like that. I don't need to get political here. When she came home that night, I confronted her about it. I reminded her how she is partnering with her adversary, Donald Trump. Her excuse was that she had no choice, and he was the only available one they made them patrol together. Yeah, sure. She even tried to say that I should be happy because I have someone brave and willing to put his life on the line partnering with his wife because that makes her safer. Sugarcoating it. I told her that she wouldn't need any protection if she stayed at the desk job or quit the police force. But she dismissed my concerns. After I caught her in the lie, she started opening up about how she now likes the police force and feels invigorated, and how she wants to become a detective and move up the ranks. It was obvious that somebody had been feeding her lines. She must have been listening and being influenced by her new patrol car partner, and now she's sounding more like him. That should have been a red flag, but I ignored it because I trusted my wife. Always pay attention to red flags, guys. You have to. In every situation, I don't care how good it is. It's unfortunate it has to be that way, but it is what it is. And many of you guys that have been burned know what I'm talking about. It continues. I can slowly see my wife change from someone I know to somebody I couldn't even recognize. The conversation she has is different. She doesn't even talk to me the way she used to before. Her hours are all over the place. We normally schedule time to spend together, but she's not willing to spend any time with me anymore. Pay attention to these things, guys. Doesn't want to spend any time with him, lying. There's a problem. She would tell me that she had a commitment to patrolling with her partner because he wanted to work overtime. My plans are now based on when her patrol partner decides to work overtime. Well, this is when you lay down the law, dude. You should have laid down the law a long time ago. If you didn't want her to be a cop, she should have been a cop. And believe me, if she respected you, she would have listened. But since she obviously knows that the relationship is more important to you than her, she has the power. It's an ugly truth, but it is what it is. She would change plans on me at the drop of a hat to join this fool on patrol. I told her that it's not the platoon and you guys are not in a war, so you can't cancel time with your husband to spend time with your work partner, police or not. He can get another replacement. Exactly, but this guy's obviously not laying down the law enough. And she doesn't respect him. And she obviously has the hots for her partner. Then she responded that she doesn't want to disappoint him, which absolutely drove me nuts. It was when I started suspecting they might be having an affair. Well, your suspicions are warranted. When I confronted her with my suspicion, I told her that she needs to stop partnering with him because I think they're having an affair. Yeah, that obviously didn't go over very well. She called me insecure and says that he's married with kids, and I quote, she said he would never cheat on his wife. Yeah, because no one in the history of mankind has ever cheated on their spouse. That told me everything I needed to know. So the choice of who sleeps with who is in his hands because if she says that he would never cheat on his wife, then that means that she had attempted to cheat with him. She said that I was reading too much into it. She explained that women at work are constantly hitting on him, but he remains loyal. Ah, so he's popular with the ladies even though she thought he was a jerk. When guys are popular with ladies, all of a sudden they start finding them attractive. It is what it is. That's why a lot of you guys have ever been dumped by your girl and you go and prove yourself, and all of a sudden women start finding you attractive and appealing. Then that same girl that dumped you all of a sudden starts thinking, oh, this guy's a catch now. Now I'm interested in him. That's how it works. Even on her Facebook pictures, he liked all her photos. I mean, who does that? Who likes all the photos of a married woman? I confronted her with it, and she said that he was just her work partner. From then on, our marriage was on the rocks. Well, of course, she was lying. I started to disdain my wife because she wouldn't stop working with this guy, and it seems like she didn't care how unpleasant it made me feel, even at some point when I was giving her too much grief about it. She told me that she stopped, but when I asked people at her job, they would confirm that she was still with her patrol partner. At some point, she started saying that she needed a break from the police force so we can have kids. Mind you, this is the same woman that didn't want to have kids. So, what changed? At some point, she started saying that blah, 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 she would stop taking her birth control. I didn't find it suspicious or anything. I suppose because her partner had kids, she wanted to mirror him. Plus, I wanted to have kids as well. About a month later, she got pregnant. Or maybe around the time period that she said that she suddenly wanted to have kids and stopped taking her birth control, she already was pregnant. How about that for an idea? About a month later, she got pregnant. A little over 3 months after that, I accepted a lucrative job as a field technician. So basically, I work as a service technician for medical equipment services company. The money was too much to resist, so I was traveling 3 days of the week. So you're away. And when the cat is away, the mice will play. At this point, my wife was about 3 to 4 months pregnant and taking some time off work, so I was the sole breadwinner. I thought it was strange for her to be staying home all day and doing nothing, but I didn't think too much about it. Well, dude, if you weren't trusting her before, you certainly got reason to not trust her now. The story you're going to see, guys, where he was obviously too soft, too easy to let things slide, and it's going to come back to bite him in the butt big time. Not that, it isn't all his fault. She's also a lying, deceitful piece of garbage. After a 3-day travel, I came back home one day, and my neighbor that I was a friend with, because I'd worked on his car for free several times before, told me that this police officer came by my house 3 days in a row. Gee, I wonder who that was. And he was staying there for hours. Back then, my wife wasn't working. She was taking some time off. So there was no reason for any police car to be there. Then my wife came home. I confronted her about it, and she first denied it. And then I told her that the neighbors saw it. Then she started saying that I was gone and she needed some company and that I was just an innocent visit. Sure. 3 days in a row, several hours at a time. First she lied. Then he had proof that she was lying. Then she said something else. I told her that she can call any of her friends to keep her company. Why him? She claimed that I was making this a big deal when it shouldn't be. If the situation was reversed and she was out working and some female he worked with came over to the house that she has suspicions of, she'd have a major problem with this. Or any woman coming over to the house that was under 200 pounds would come over, she'd have a problem with this. But he's the bad guy here. That's a load of crap. I told her I don't trust her anymore and I believe she's having an affair. She lost it on me, started calling me an insecure person. I told her that if she wasn't such a 403 or 304, that's code, I wouldn't be insecure. She slapped me twice in the face, tried to do it a third time, but I grabbed her hand to prevent it from slapping me. She was 5 months pregnant at this point, so I wasn't too rough with her. Well, you shouldn't be because for many reasons, but one also, she's a cop and she's got cop partners. And you're going to see what happens. I was just defending myself. Her reactions weren't too surprising to me because she had been physical with me a couple times, but that was years back. And from experience, she resorts to violence when she is at fault and when she had lost the argument. Again, many reasons to break up with her back in the day if she was attacking you. I mean, come on here, man. I wrapped both of her hands, turned her around, and lifted her and carried her to the exit door, and she struggled to get away. She was screaming and calling me all kinds of names to get away from my grip as I carried her out the house. I know the neighbors must have heard us. I wasn't going to let her stay in the house that night. Well, after her doing that, I wouldn't either. I dropped her out of my front door and locked it quickly behind her before she could get up. She tried to break the door but wasn't successful. I guess she went to my neighbor and borrowed a phone. Interestingly enough, guess who she called? She didn't call 911. She didn't call her family or friends. She called this scumbag patrol partner of hers. He came to my door with full police authority, weapons drawn, and everything. He came with a partner, and the partner was the only reasonable person between us. They were accusing me of all sorts of things. Luckily, I sustained scars from her attack and took pictures to show that she was the one that attacked me, because he was ready to use deadly force on me. I guess he was trying to get me out of the way so he could continue ducking my wife on the side. She had already lied that I was the one who initiated the fight, and I was the one that did those things. But she had no proof. I had the scars to prove it, but I still got handcuffed and treated like a criminal in my own home. None of this surprises me. Why this guy didn't end it with her, I don't know. But a lot of people have to go through hell to learn a lesson. Then I was asked to leave my house, at least for that night. I slept in a neighbor's house. I can't get over how I was roughed up. And it will be definitely filing a lawsuit. And guess what? He also falsified the domestic report. The following morning, I went back to my house. Now my wife had come back to her senses and is now apologizing for what happened and how she hit me and lied that I was the one that started it, even though she almost had me destroyed for our lies. The waterworks, the I'm sorries, and these dumbasses fall for these things. It should have been over a long time ago, definitely over then. And questioning the who's the real father of the baby. I told her that it's best we separate at least till she gives birth to the baby. Hallelujah. I told her I was leaving, and she was worried about who was going to support her till she gets back to work. I told her that she should get her lover that she called yesterday to support her. I moved out of the house the following day. I told her that I would pay my half of the lease on the house till it expired, but because my name is on the lease, but I'm not going to stay with her as a man knowing she's already effing another man. She can lie all she wants, but the truth is very clear. So, there you go, guys. He doesn't have 100% concrete evidence, but he has plenty of darn good reasons to believe something's going on. But listen to all the drama and shit he's going through. This is why I do what I do, guys. On my other channel, Strong Successful Male, and this one, to help guys understand you got to lay down the law, you got to pay attention to the red flags, and not let this stuff happen. Now, this is the end of part 1, because if I did all 3 parts, we'd be here for an hour, and I can't talk that long without a break. So, this is the end of part 1. We get to part 2. That's when it gets really interesting, where he finds the actual proof of them hooking up, because obviously they are. Paternity test, leaving her all. That's when the drama really picks up, and you'll definitely find it entertaining. And then, of course, there's going to be part 3, ending the whole saga here. But stay tuned to the next episode. That is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and what you think about this. Let me know, guys. Certainly should have ended it before. Weren't all the signs there. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.